Most of the stories I get from books. But this story is absolutely true. This happened to me. Now, I grew up here in San Diego County. Spent my whole life here. I was born in LA, but we moved down here when I was 5. And I grew up here and did all my schooling down here. When you go to school here in San Diego County, they take you for field trips. They take you to Old Town. And they have you do all the old towny stuff, right? They take you and they show you all the old houses and they talk to you about California history. You know, you're shaking your head. Yeah, they tell you all about first flag raised in California and all that stuff, all that good stuff. They take you over to the Casa Estudillo where they have you make adobe bricks. Now, supposedly you're learning all about, you know, how people made adobe bricks, but they actually use those bricks to repair the building, so I think it's just really child labor. Then they take you over, yeah, I mean, you're 4th graders, right? They take you over to where there's this big cauldron of boiling wax, and you all stand around it, and you got a wick at the end of a stick, and everybody's dipping it in there, this big cauldron of boiling wax with a live fire under it, a bunch of 4th graders, and there's always one jerk that's going to whip you with the wax while you're back there. And then you wind up with I mean, basically you got enough time to make a birthday candle that's 12 inches long, but not much more than that. Then the end of every trip to Old Town ends with a trip to the Whaley Mansion. Now the Whaley Mansion was built in 1856 by Thomas Whaley. It was the first brick building built in San Diego. He built it with bricks from his own factory. He owned a brick factory here in town. He was a pillar of San Diego community. He did lots of cool stuff. And in this building, in this mansion of his, he had the first courthouse in San Diego. That courthouse is still there. It's a beautiful courthouse, right? He had a general store called Whaley and Crosswaite because his business partner, Phil Crosswaite, was the sheriff in town. And so they had all, you know, he had everything there. Upstairs he had a theater where they would hold shows and stuff, like traveling musicians would come to town, and he had a theater upstairs in the show. Now, because I grew up here in town, and because I like Old Town, and we would go there on field trips, and we would go there on regular trips and stuff too, I'll bet as a youth I've been in the Whaley Mansion a dozen times. You know, it would be safe to say. I've seen everything there is to see in that house, except for the one thing that everybody goes there to see. And that would be a ghost, exactly. You see, the Whaley Mansion is considered to be the most haunted house in America. The United States Department of Commerce maintains a list of houses that it considers officially haunted, mostly for tourism reasons, and the Whaley Mansion is the top house on that list. That house was considered haunted the day it was built in 1856. You see, Thomas Whaley, he built this house in the center of downtown, in the center of what was downtown San Diego at the time. Beautiful location, right? Very expensive location, right? I mean, it's 15 minutes from the beach. It's great. 15 minutes walking from the beach. So it's a nice place to build a house. And he got that land really cheap. Why? Because it was the site of the gallows where Yankee Jim Robinson was hanged. And Thomas Whaley used to write in his diary that he could hear Yankee Jim upstairs stomping around, not long after the house was built. And since then, the Whaleys have all died in the house, and they say you see all sorts of ghosts, including their dog, occasionally comes out. Now, like I said, I've been to that house a dozen times, and I've seen everything there is to see except for a ghost. And I really wanted to see a ghost. And back in those days, the Whaley Mansion wasn't open at night. It was only open during the day. Since then, they've been open at night because they found out it's more lucrative. But back in those days, it wasn't open at night except for special tour groups. And we were going to a conference down in Coronado, and we were staying at a resort down in Coronado, and we had a free night at downtown San Diego. Let's do some touristy stuff, right? So I got on one of those special ghost tours that goes to the Whaley Mansion at night. We drove all over town, and we went to all these different haunted houses like the Villa Montezuma, and we went to all these other places and saw, you know, lots of things like tombstones and stuff like that. But we got to the Whaley Mansion. It was the last stop on the trip. We got there at midnight. Now I knew that I was going to go to the Whaley Mansion at night, and I had never been there before at night. And so I wanted to see a ghost. So what did I do? I read every ghost story I could get my hands on about the Whaley Mansion, and thereby maximize my chances to see a ghost. And I knew if I wanted to see a ghost in the Whaley Mansion, there were 4 places I had to look. I had to look at the sofa where Violet Whaley bled to death after shooting herself in the heart. And I had to look at the archway in the living room, which supposedly is on the site of where the gallows was. And they say that sometimes you can see Yankee Jim in there, just hanging around. I had to look at the back bedroom, where Corinne Whaley, the last Whaley to live in the house, lived until she died. And I had to look at the back staircase, where they say you can see Anna Whaley standing on the 9th step, like she did the night she held off the marauders that were trying to murder her children. So we went into the house at midnight, and I walked by the sofa where Violet bled to death. I didn't see anything happening there. So I moved on. And I looked at the archway where Yankee Jim was hanged, and I didn't see him there. They say that if you walk through that archway, you can feel a tightening about your throat, but they don't let you walk through the archway anymore. And then I started heading towards the back bedroom. Now, as you go towards the back of the house, as you're heading towards the back bedroom is all the way in the back on the right, and the staircase descends on your left. And if you want to take things in order and save the best for last, you don't want to look up the back staircase before you get to the bedroom, right? So I put my hand up so that I didn't accidentally look up and see a ghost out of turn. Okay? I went into the back bedroom where Corinne Whaley had died. And I stood in that room and I stared in there waiting to see a ghost. And I realized why so many ghostly pictures were taken in there. There's a big sheet of plexiglass that's up, so you can't reach through and touch all the old furniture and stuff like that. It is a museum. And so I guess, you take a picture, your flash goes off, you get a reflection of the person standing behind you, you put it on the internet, and you say, I saw a ghost in the Whaley house. But I'm standing in this room, so many people have seen ghosts in this room, there's so many ghost stories written about this room, and I'm just staring waiting to see a ghost. The tour guide, she called everybody up to the front of the house, up to the courthouse, to tell ghost stories. And so everybody left. And I realized at that point that every ghost story I've ever read about the Whaley Mansion begins with, I became separated from the crowd. And so I had become separated from the crowd, and I'm standing there in this room, and I'm really starting to get scared. Do I want to see a ghost? I mean, honestly. Do I want to see some undead specter from the other side that refuses to pass on? Some evil phantasm who simply hangs around the afterlife just to hassle the living? I decided I did not. I was too scared. I'm going to go back up to the front of the house, get back up to the courthouse, get with all the living people and relax, right? So I turned around to leave. And when I did, I couldn't not look up the back staircase. I was compelled. And when I looked up the back staircase, there, standing on the 9th step of the back staircase, right where she was supposed to be, as plain as you and me standing here, was Anna Whaley, dressed in a 19th century outfit. I screamed like a little girl. Everybody came running up from the front of the house to find out what the problem was. And the docent, who was dressed like Anna Whaley and standing on the 9th step of the back staircase, was laughing at me because I had just screamed at her. That's a true story.